The crystalline spires of New Geneva glittered in the morning sunlight as Major Diana Harrison adjusted her diplomatic corps uniform. The United Earth Coalition had finally secured a meeting with the notorious Nyx Empire, a species known throughout the galaxy for their lethal venom and warrior culture. As she strode through the embassy's corridors, her augmented reflexes, a result of the classified Phoenix program, kept her movements fluid and precise. Major Harrison, the Nyx delegation has arrived, Lieutenant James Chen's voice crackled through her neural implant. Ambassador Vale requests your presence in the Grand Chamber. Diana acknowledged the message with a subtle gesture. As head of security for this historic meeting, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to go terribly wrong. The Nyx were notorious for their unpredictable nature, especially during their sacred season of transformation. The Grand Chamber's doors parted silently, revealing the imposing figures of the Nyx delegation. Their obsidian scales shimmered with an iridescent quality, and their silver eyes seemed to pierce through everyone present. At their head stood warrior diplomat Nvara, her ceremonial armor adorned with marks of countless victories. Ambassador Vale stepped forward, his aged face bearing the diplomatic smile he'd perfected over decades of service. Welcome to Earth, honored representatives of the Nyx Empire. We are Dash. The attack came without warning. Nvara's guards suddenly convulsed, their scales darkening to a deep purple, a sign Diana recognized from her briefings as extreme aggression. Before anyone could react, they had already torn through the human security detail. Protect the ambassador. Diana shouted, her augmented muscles launching her forward. She intercepted a Nyx warrior moments before it could reach Vale, her combat training kicking in automatically. The warrior's fangs gleamed as it lunged for her throat. Diana knew one bite meant certain death, no known species had ever survived Nyx venom. But there was no time for fear. She grappled with the creature, their enhanced strengths nearly matched. Then it happened. The Nyx's fangs sank deep into her shoulder, piercing through the protective fabric of her uniform. Diana felt the burning sensation of venom entering her bloodstream, but instead of the expected paralysis and death, something extraordinary occurred. Her body grew warm, then hot, but she remained standing. The Nyx warrior pulled back, silver eyes widening in shock. Impossible, it hissed in its native tongue, which Diana's neural translator rendered perfectly. You should be dead. Taking advantage of the warrior's surprise, Diana executed a perfect takedown maneuver, pinning the much larger alien to the ground. Around them, the chaos continued, but a strange stillness had fallen over Diana and her opponent. Nvara approached, her own weapons drawn but held at rest. Release my warrior, she commanded, but curiosity colored her tone. You have survived the great venom. This has never happened before. Diana maintained her hold but looked up at the warrior diplomat. I'll release your warrior when you call off this attack. We came here for peace talks, not combat. Nvara's silver eyes studied Diana intensely. The transformation drove them to frenzy, it was not planned. But you are something new. Something our prophecies speak of. She raised her hand, issuing a sharp command in the Nyx language. Immediately, her warriors stood down, though they continued to stare at Diana with a mixture of fear and fascination. As Diana helped the subdued warrior up, she noticed changes in her own body. Her wound was already healing, and she felt stronger, more aware. Whatever the Nyx venom was doing to her, it wasn't killing her, it was changing her. Major Harrison, Nvara said, stepping closer, you will come with us to the Nyx homeworld. The High Council must know of this development. Ambassador Vale, who had been safely evacuated to a corner of the room, spoke up. That's out of the question. Major Harrison is a UEC officer, not a science experiment. But Diana saw the opportunity for what it was. Ambassador, this could be exactly what we need, a real chance for understanding between our species. She turned to Nvara. I'll come with you, on one condition, We use this situation to establish genuine diplomatic relations. No more attacks, no more secrets. Nvara's lips curved into what might have been a smile, revealing her own impressive fangs. Agreed, Major Harrison. Though I warn you, surviving our venom is only the beginning. There are greater trials ahead. As Diana looked around the chamber at the mixing of human and Nyx representatives, she knew her life would never be the same. She had become something unprecedented, a bridge between two species that had always assumed they were incompatible. What other changes would the venom bring? And what secrets lay waiting on the Nyx homeworld? The answers to these questions would have to wait. For now, she had a diplomatic crisis to manage and a journey to prepare for. One thing was certain, the galaxy would never be the same after today. The Nyx diplomatic vessel, Twilight's Edge, hummed with an otherworldly resonance as Diana studied her reflection in the polished obsidian walls. Her eyes had changed, taking on a subtle silver sheen similar to the Nyx. The bite marks on her shoulder had healed into an intricate pattern that seemed to shimmer when she moved. Your transformation progresses faster than expected, Nvara's voice echoed through the chamber. The warrior diplomat moved with liquid grace as she entered, her armor now replaced with flowing robes that emphasized her regal bearing. Our scientists are perplexed. Diana turned from the mirror. That makes two of us. Any theories about why your venom didn't kill me? Nvara produced a holographic display, showing complex molecular structures. Your genetic code is unlike anything we've encountered in humans. There are modifications, but they appeared designed for something else entirely. The Phoenix program. Diana's hand unconsciously touched the neural implant at the base of her skull. Her classified military file contained gaps, periods of special training that she couldn't fully remember. I underwent some military enhancements, she said carefully. These are not mere enhancements, Nvara's silver eyes narrowed. This is fundamental reconstruction at the cellular level. Someone remade you, Major Harrison. The question is, why? Before Diana could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Nvara's scales rippled with tension as she received information through her neural link. We have company. A UEC stealth vessel just decloaked off our port bow. Diana followed Nvara to the bridge, where the massive viewing screen showed a sleek black ship bearing UEC Special Operations markings. Her heart sank as she recognized the designation, Phoenix Division. This is Commander Victor Kane of the UEC Phoenix, a familiar voice transmitted across the command channel. Return Major Harrison immediately. She is the property of Project Chimera. Property. The word hit Diana like a physical blow. Nvara's warriors tensed, their scales darkening with battle readiness, but the warrior diplomat herself remained eerily calm. Major Harrison, Nvara said quietly, what is Project Chimera? I don't know, Diana replied honestly, but fragments of memories were surfacing, sterile labs, endless surgeries, genetic sequencing chambers. But I'm starting to understand why I survived your venom. Commander Kane's voice crackled through again. Major Harrison was engineered to adapt to alien biochemistry. She is a prototype universal infiltrator. The bite incident has activated latent programming that must be contained. Comply or we will open fire. Nvara's expression remained unreadable. What is your wish, Major? You are not our prisoner. Diana's mind raced. The UEC had modified her without her knowledge, turned her into some kind of biological weapon. The silver in her eyes wasn't just from the Nyx venom, it was her body adapting, just as it had been designed to do. But adapted for what purpose? I need answers, she said finally. Real ones. Not UEC propaganda. She faced Nvara. I'll stay with you, if you'll have me. There's more going on here than either of our governments are admitting. Nvara's lips curved in that now familiar almost smile. A wise choice. Though it may mean being branded a traitor by your people. Those people experimented on me without my consent. Made me into something without my knowledge. Diana's voice hardened. They're not my people anymore. The warrior diplomat turned to her communications officer. Send word to the High Council. Tell them Project Chimera has revealed itself. To the UEC ship, she transmitted, Major Harrison remains under Nick's protection by her own choice. Any hostile action will be considered an act of war. Commander Kane's response was immediate. You're making a mistake, Diana. The programming cannot be controlled. When the change is complete. Nvara cut the transmission. We should leave. They will not risk war by firing on a diplomatic vessel, but they will follow. As the Twilight's Edge prepared for faster-than-light travel, Diana felt a strange sensation spreading through her body. The Nyx venom was still changing her, interacting with whatever modifications the Phoenix program had made. She caught her reflection in a darkened screen. Her pupils had become slightly elongated, more reptilian. Your people meant you to be a weapon against us, Nvara observed. Instead, you may be the key to something far greater. Our prophecies speak of one who would bridge the gap between species, who would carry both bloods and survive. I never believed in prophecies, Diana said, watching as stars began to blur past the view screen. Perhaps not, Nvara replied. But you might wish to start. The High Council's archives contain records of Project Chimera dating back centuries. Your transformation was planned long before either of us were born. Diana turned to her, questions burning in her silver-touched eyes. By whom? That, Nvara said, is what we must discover. But first, we need to complete your transformation. The changes you're experiencing now are only the beginning. As the ship entered hyperspace, Diana felt a curious mix of fear and anticipation. She was becoming something new, something neither human nor Nyx. Whether that something was a monster or a miracle remained to be seen. What she didn't know was that deep in her modified cells, ancient programs were awakening, and the true purpose of Project Chimera was about to be revealed. The sacred city of Nyxhaven rose before them like a dream carved from living crystal, its spiraling towers catching the light of 3 moons. Diana stood at the observation deck of the Twilight's Edge, her transformed eyes better able to appreciate the subtle bioluminescence that pulsed through the city structures. 2 weeks had passed since their escape from the UEC vessel. 2 weeks of rapid changes as the Nyx venom reshaped her body. Her skin had developed a subtle iridescent sheen, and silvery patterns like circuitry traced their way across her flesh. More significantly, she could now sense the emotional states of the Nyx around her, picking up their biochemical signatures like fragments of song. The High Council awaits, Nvara announced, approaching silently. She dispensed with formal armor entirely around Diana, a sign of deep trust in Nyx culture. Are you prepared for what we might learn? Diana flexed her hand, watching the patterns shift beneath her skin. As ready as I'll ever be. Though I notice you haven't mentioned what happens to most outsiders who enter the sacred archives. Most outsiders don't survive Nyx venom, Nvara countered with a slight smile. You've already defied our most fundamental assumptions. What's one more impossible feat? The landing was smooth, the ship's living metal adapting to match the crystalline dock perfectly. A delegation of Nyx priests awaited them, their scales shimmering with deep purple and gold markings that Diana now recognized as signs of their elevated status. The lead priest, an ancient Nyx named Kroll, approached them. His silver eyes widened as he took in Diana's transformed appearance. The prophecy speaks true, he whispered in the Nyx tongue. She bears the mark of integration. Diana's enhanced hearing caught the words clearly. What mark? Kroll pointed to the healed bite pattern on her shoulder, which had evolved into an intricate spiral design. That pattern is sacred writing in our oldest language. It speaks of unity between stars and species. We believed it myth until now. The procession through Nyxhaven was eerily silent. The city's inhabitants watched from shadows and crystal spires, their emotional signatures a complex mix of fear, curiosity, and something deeper, anticipation. Diana felt as though she were walking through a dream, the city's bioluminescence pulsing in time with her heartbeat. The archives were housed in a vast underground chamber, its walls lined with living crystal that seemed to hold frozen light within. Kroll led them to a central platform where a holographic interface sprang to life at their approach. Project Chimera, Kroll began, his voice echoing in the chamber, was not created by your UEC. They merely discovered fragments of a much older program, one left behind by those we call the architects. The holographic display showed star maps, genetic sequences, and ancient symbols that seemed to writhe and shift as Diana watched. To her surprise, she could read some of them, the knowledge somehow encoded in her transformed DNA. The architects believed that the greatest threat to galactic civilization was not war or disease, but isolation, Nvara explained. They sought to create bridges between species, beings who could adapt and transform, carrying the genetic legacy of multiple races. They created people like me? Diana asked, watching as the display showed similar transformation sequences across different species. They created the potential, Kroll corrected. Sealed it away in various genetic lines, waiting for the right combinations to activate. The UEC's modifications didn't make you what you are, they merely awakened what was already there. A new hologram appeared, showing Diana's current genetic structure. Beside it, ancient Nyx text scrolled, describing something called the convergence. Your transformation isn't just physical, Nvara said softly. You're becoming a template, proof that our species can merge, adapt, become something greater than the sum of their parts. But there are those who fear such change. As if summoned by her words, alarms began blaring throughout the archive. A young Nyx warrior burst into the chamber, scales dark with urgency. Multiple UEC vessels have entered the system, heavily armed. They're demanding we surrender the specimen or face orbital bombardment. Diana felt a surge of anger, both at being called a specimen and at the UEC's arrogance. The emotion triggered something in her transformed biology, the patterns on her skin flared with light, and she felt power coursing through her veins. They fear what they don't understand, she said, her voice carrying new harmonics that made the crystal chambers resonate. But I'm not their weapon anymore. I'm what the architects intended, a bridge between worlds. Nvara's hand found hers, the touch sending sparks of shared sensation between them. Then let us show them what that truly means. The prophecy speaks not just of transformation, but of revelation, a truth that would change both our species forever. Kroll gestured to a sealed door at the far end of the archive. Below lies the architect's greatest secret, a chamber that can broadcast genetic knowledge across vast distances. If you truly are the bridge they foresaw, you could awaken similar potential in others. Not to create weapons, but to forge connections. Diana looked at her transformed reflection in the crystal walls. She was neither human nor Nyx now, but something new. Something that proved cooperation was possible, even at the cellular level. The UEC had tried to make her a weapon of infiltration. Instead, she would become an instrument of unity. Show me, she said firmly. It's time both our peoples understood what the architects really intended. As they descended toward the hidden chamber, Diana felt the weight of centuries of planning settling around her. She wasn't just a scientific anomaly or a diplomatic incident anymore. She was the key to a transformation that would reshape the galaxy itself. The architect's chamber was a marvel that defied comprehension. Massive crystal pylons reached into darkness, each one containing what appeared to be frozen strands of light, the combined genetic legacy of countless species. Diana's transformed vision could see the complex patterns within, dancing like stellar formations. The broadcast array, Kroll explained, gesturing to a central platform that hummed with ancient power. From here, the architects once seeded entire sectors with their genetic programs. But it requires a catalyst, a fully realized bridge between species. Diana stepped onto the platform, feeling the technology respond to her presence. The patterns beneath her skin flared brighter, resonating with the chamber's energy. Above them, the first sounds of orbital combat could be heard, the UEC fleet engaging with Nyx defenders. Commander Kane will not stop, Nvara said, her scales shifting with concern. The UEC fears what they cannot control. They would rather destroy this knowledge than let it change their perceived order of things. Diana closed her eyes, feeling the chamber's energy flow through her. Images flashed through her mind, other transformed beings throughout history, bridges between species that had been hidden or destroyed by those who feared change. The architects had known this would happen, had planned for it. That's why they waited, she realized aloud. They knew forcing unity would only breed resistance. They needed species to choose it willingly. A massive explosion rocked the chamber. Through their shared sensory link, Diana felt Nvara's knowledge of the battle above. UEC ships had broken through the outer defenses. Time was running out. The array is keyed to your genetic signature, Kroll said urgently. You can activate it, share the potential for transformation with both humans and Nyx who carry the dormant genes. But the power required. He hesitated. It may burn out your neural pathways. This could kill you. Diana felt Nvara's spike of emotion at those words. Over the past weeks, their connection had grown beyond mere biology or diplomacy. There was something deeper there, something the architects had perhaps intended all along, proof that different species could not only coexist but form profound bonds. What happens if we do nothing? Diana asked, already knowing the answer. The UEC will bomb this site into oblivion, Nvara replied grimly. All of this knowledge, this potential for unity, will be lost. We'll return to our separate worlds, our separate evolution paths. Everything the architects worked for will be forgotten. Another explosion, closer this time. Warning lights flashed across the crystal pylons as dust rained from the ceiling. Through her enhanced senses, Diana could feel the fear and determination of the Nyx defenders above, the grim resolve of the UEC forces. So much potential for greatness, wasted on conflict. There's something else, Kroll said, manipulating the chamber's controls. The array wasn't just designed to share genetic potential. It can share experience, memory, understanding. Anyone affected by the broadcast would know what you know, feel what you feel. They would understand, truly understand, the other species. Diana looked at her transformed hands, at the patterns that marked her as neither human nor Nyx but something gloriously in between. Understanding was always the key. That's what the architects really created, not just the ability to change physically, but the capacity to change mentally. To see through other eyes. Nvara moved closer, her presence sending ripples of shared sensation through Diana's awareness. Whatever you choose, you are not alone. The prophecy speaks of shared burden, shared triumph. Diana met those silver eyes that had become so dear to her. Then let's give them something worth sharing. She reached out, taking Nvara's hand as she opened herself fully to the chamber's power. The genetic patterns under her skin blazed like captive stars as she felt the array respond, drawing on their combined essence. She pushed every memory, every moment of her transformation, every revelation about what unity truly meant into the building energy. Above them, the battle raged. Commander Kane's voice broke through all communications channels. This is your final warning. Surrender the specimen or we will have no choice but to dash. His words cut off as Diana activated the array. Power surged through her, indescribable pain mixing with transcendent revelation as the chamber unleashed its ancient purpose. Through her neural link, through her connection with Nvara, through the very atoms of her transformed being, Diana broadcast not just genetic potential but understanding. In ships above, in cities below, in colonies and stations across the sector, those who carried the dormant architect genes felt the change begin. But more importantly, they felt the truth, the memory of two species learning to trust, to cooperate, to love. Human and Nyx alike experienced each other's perspectives, fears, and hopes. As consciousness faded, Diana saw through countless eyes, humans marveling at their first signs of transformation, Nyx experiencing human emotions and memories. The barriers between species were dissolving not through force but through shared experience. The last thing she heard was Nvara's voice, both in her mind and in her ears. "You've done it. The bridge is built. Now, let us help you cross it." Diana slipped into darkness, uncertain if she would wake. But she knew that whatever happened next, the galaxy would never be the same. The architect's dream of unity was finally, after eons of waiting, becoming reality. Power coursed through Diana's transformed body as the ancient machinery completed its work. The pain of forced evolution gave way to something transcendent, awareness expanding beyond physical form. Her consciousness touched the vast network of living crystal that formed Nyxhaven's heart, sensing every defender above, every ship in orbit, every mind awaiting the Watcher's judgment. The Watchers themselves were descending through the city's upper levels, their true forms defying conventional perception. Through Diana's enhanced vision, they appeared as shifting matrices of light and possibility, carrying echoes of the architect's original vision. "They're beautiful," she whispered, her voice carrying new harmonics that made the crystal chamber sing. "And terrible." Nvara's grip on her hand tightened. "The final transformation is complete. How do you feel?" Diana looked down at herself. Her body now seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously, human, Nyx, and something far more ancient. The patterns beneath her skin had evolved into flowing scripts of architect language, each symbol containing vast archives of knowledge. "I feel whole," she replied. Like everything before was just preparation for this moment. Commander Kane's voice cut through her expanded awareness. "Major, the alien fleet has breached the city's outer defenses. UEC ships are engaging, but their weapons pass right through them. The Nyx defense grid is having similar results. They cannot be fought with conventional means," Kroll said gravely. "The Watchers exist partially outside normal spacetime. They can only be addressed by one who carries the architect's full legacy." Diana stepped forward as the chamber's main doors dissolved, revealing three Watcher entities. Their presence bent reality around them, each movement leaving trails of possible futures in their wake. When they spoke, it was directly into the minds of all present. "The experiment nears its conclusion. Show us what you have become." Diana felt Nvara's surge of protective instinct, sensed Kane's ships maneuvering for a better position, knew that every being in Nyxhaven was watching, waiting. This was the moment the architects had planned for, proof that different species could not only coexist but evolve together into something greater. She opened herself fully to the Watcher's perception, letting them see every step of her journey. The initial bite that should have killed her, the gradual transformation, the growing connection with Nvara, the final metamorphosis. But more than that, she showed them the changing relationships between human and Nyx, enemies becoming allies, fear giving way to understanding. Impressive, the Watchers acknowledged. But individual success does not guarantee species compatibility. Previous experiments have failed despite promising beginnings. Diana smiled, finally understanding her true role. "I'm not here to guarantee anything. I'm here to offer a choice." She reached out with her newfound powers, connecting with the architect's broadcast array hidden deep beneath the city. Energy surged through the ancient network as she accessed its full potential, not to force change as she had once considered, but to extend an invitation. Throughout Nyxhaven, across UEC ships and Nyx vessels, those who carried dormant architect genes felt the possibility of transformation. Not forced evolution, but the potential for voluntary unity. Diana shared her experience, her understanding, letting each individual see what cooperation between species could achieve. You would leave the outcome uncertain? The Watcher's collective consciousness rippled with surprise. Forced unity isn't unity at all, Diana replied, feeling Nvara's approval through their bond. The architects didn't create me to be a weapon or a tool of forced evolution. They created the potential for bridges between species, but those bridges have to be built willingly. Commander Kane's voice came through again, changed, the gene sequences, they're activating across multiple ships. Both UEC and Nick's crews are showing signs of compatibility. Let them choose, Diana said to the Watchers. That's the only real test that matters. The Watchers' forms shifted, their light patterns rearranging as they processed this unexpected development. Finally, they spoke again. The architect's vision was larger than we understood. Perhaps it is we who have failed the test by seeking to control its outcome. Throughout the city, throughout the fleet, humans and Nix who felt the call of transformation were reaching out to each other. Old enemies became partners in a grand experiment, fear replaced by curiosity and hope. The very thing the UEC had tried to weaponize, adaptability between species, was becoming a tool for peace. What happens now? Nvara asked the Watchers. Now? Now we watch, as we were truly meant to do. The experiment continues, but its course is no longer ours to direct. The Watchers began to fade, their ships dissolving like morning mist. Before they vanished completely, they left one final message. The architects would be proud. The bridge is built. Where it leads? That is for you to decide. Diana turned to Nvara, seeing their shared future in those silver eyes. Around them, Nixhaven hummed with new energy as humans and Nix began their own journeys of transformation. Not every individual would choose to change, and that too was part of the experiment's success, unity through choice, diversity through acceptance. Ready to help build that future? She asked. Nvara's scales shimmered with joy as she took Diana's transformed hand. Together, she replied. As it was always meant to be. Above them, the first light of a new day broke through Nixhaven's crystal spires, scattering rainbow patterns across two species taking their first steps toward a shared destiny. The deadly bite that should have ended a life had instead begun a revolution, not through force or fear, but through the simple power of choice and understanding. The bridge was built. The future awaited. And somewhere, watching over countless worlds and species, the architect's ancient dream of unity lived on.